A student's overview of the Ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 38 Esoteric Psychology Volume 2. 7 Ray Methods of Individualization. Ray 1. Dynamic one-pointedness. Destructive energy. Power realized selfishly. Lovelessness. Isolation, a longing for power and authority. Desire to dominate. Expressed strength and self-will, leading to a dynamic use of energy for the furtherance of the plan. The use of destructive forces in order to prepare the way for the builders. The will to power in order to cooperate. Power realized as the major weapon of love. Identification with the rhythm of the whole. The cessation of isolation. Ray 2. The power to build for selfish ends. Capacity to sense the whole and to remain apart. The cultivation of a separative spirit. The hidden light. The realization of selfish desire. Longing for material well-being. Selfishness, and subordination of all soul powers to this end, leading to building wisely, in relation to the plan. Inclusiveness. A longing for wisdom and truth. Sensitivity to the whole. Renunciation of the great heresy of separativeness. The revelation of the light. True illumination. Right speech through generated wisdom. Ray 3. Force manipulation through selfish desire. Intelligent use of force with wrong motive. Intense material and mental activity. The realization of energy as an end in itself. Longing for glory, beauty and for material objectives. Submergence in illusion, glamour, and maya, leading to the manipulation of energy in order to reveal beauty and truth. The use of forces intelligently for the furtherance of the plan. Ordered rhythmic activity in cooperation with the whole. Desire for right revelation of divinity and light. Adherence to right action. The revelation of glory and goodwill. Ray 4. Confused combat. The realization of that which is high and that which is low. The darkness which precedes form expression. The veiling of the intuition. The sensing of inharmony, and cooperation with the part and not the whole. Identification with humanity, the fourth creative hierarchy. Undue recognition of that which is produced by speech. Abnormal sensitivity to that which is the not self. Constant points of crisis, leading to unity and harmony. The evocation of the intuition. Right judgment and pure reason. The wisdom which works through the angel of the presence. Ray 5. The energy of ignorance. Criticism. The power to rationalize and destroy. Mental separation. Desire for knowledge. This leads to material activity. Detailed analysis. Intense materialism and temporarily the negation of deity. Intensification of the power to isolate. The implications of wrong emphasis. Distorted views of truth. Mental devotion to form and form activity. Theology, leading to a knowledge of reality. The realization of the soul and its potentialities. Power to recognize and contact the angel of the presence. Sensitivity to deity, to light and to wisdom. Spiritual and mental devotion. The power to take initiation. This is a point of real importance. Ray 6. Violence. Fanaticism. Willful adherence to an ideal. Short-sighted blindness. Militarism and a tendency to make trouble with others and with groups. The power to see no point except one's own. Suspicion of people's motives. Rapid reaction to glamour and illusion. Emotional devotion and bewildered idealism. Vibratory activity between the pairs of opposites. Intense capacity to be personal and emphasize personalities, leading to directed, inclusive idealism. Steadiness of perception through the expansion of consciousness. Reaction to, and sympathy with, the point of view of others. Willingness to see the work of other people progress along their chosen lines. The choosing of the middle way. Peace and not war. The good of the whole and not the part. Ray 7. Black magic, or the use of magical powers for selfish ends. The power to sit upon the fence till the selfish values emerge. Disorder and chaos, through misunderstanding of the plan. The wrong use of speech to bring about chosen objectives. Untruth. Sex magic. The selfish perversion of soul powers. Leading to white magic, the use of soul powers for spiritual ends. The identification of oneself with reality. Right order through right magic. Power to cooperate with the whole. Understanding of the plan. The magical work of interpretation. Manifestation of divinity. End of page 192. The two cycles of egoic appropriation. We shall now enter upon a somewhat technical consideration of the relation of the ego and its ray to the sheaths or vehicles through which it must express itself, and through which it must enter into contact with certain phases of divine experience. The foundation of what is here elaborated in relation to the cycles of appropriation will be found briefly touched upon in a treatise on cosmic fire, and the following statements, gathered from those pages, will be elucidated in the succeeding pages. 1. As the ego appropriates to itself a sheath for expression and experience, 2 points of crisis occur. A. The work of passing on to a particular plane for purposes of incarnation is one such point. This concerns the passing down to a lower plane, or from a lower plane onto a higher. Indications of the importance and the crucial nature of such transition can be seen in certain formulas which are used when passing from one degree in masonry to another, as in raising a lodge from a lower to a higher degree. B. Another such point of crisis occurs when the mental body is swept into activity and the etheric body is similarly vitalized. 2. Relationship between the ego or soul and the dense physical body is established when a. Matter of the 3 lowest subplanes of the physical plane is built into the etheric body, prior to physical incarnation, and the potential channels of communication and of exit are established. These are the main channel or line of communication found between the center at the base of the spine and that in the head, via the spleen. B. A corresponding activity takes place in the process of liberation upon the path of return in which the bridge, or the antakarana, is established between the lower mental body, the causal body, and the higher mental worlds. Characteristics of a server. These characteristics can be easily and briefly noted. They are not exactly what one may have been led to believe. I am not here speaking of the qualifications required for the treading of the path of discipleship or the probationary path. These are well known, they are the platitudes of the spiritual life, and constitute the battleground, or the Kurukshetra of most aspirants. We are here concerned with those qualities which will emerge when a man is working under the impulse of the law of service. They will appear when he is a real channel for the life of the soul. His major characteristics will then be 3 in number. 1. He will be distinguished, as might be expected, by the quality of harmlessness, and by an active refraining from those acts and that speech which might hurt or cause any misunderstanding. By no word, suggestion, implication, innuendo or voiced dissatisfaction will he hurt his group. You will note that I do not say will not hurt any individual. Those working under the law of service need no reminder not to hurt any individual. They often need, under the exuberance of spiritual stimulation and the intensity of their aspiration, to be reminded to demonstrate group harmlessness. 2. The second characteristic is a willingness to let others serve as seems best to them, knowing that the life flowing through the individual server must find its own channels and outlets, and that direction of these currents can be dangerous and prevent the rendering of the intended service. The server's efforts will be turned in 2 directions. A. To the task of helping others to stand in spiritual being, as he himself is learning to stand. B. To aiding the individual to express his service in his chosen field as he desires to express it, and not as the onlooking helper deems that he should do it. 3. The third characteristic of the new server is joyfulness. This takes the place of criticism, that dire creator of misery, and is the silence that sounds. End of page 193. Methods of ray service. As time goes on, this will be proved decidedly, and each ray worker and server will be found to render his service along peculiar and specific lines. These indicate for him the line of least resistance and, consequently, of the greatest efficiency. The 7 ray types will work in the following ways, which I am stating very briefly, for to do more than that might limit the expression of those who do not know enough to be discriminating as to their characteristics, and might unduly qualify and color the experience of those servers who recognize, as some already do, their ray. They might, with entirely good intention, seek to force the ray qualities of their souls into dominance before the personality ray is adequately known or controlled. Other servers frequently confuse the 2 rays and deem their soul ray to be of a particular type, whereas it is only their personality ray to which they predominantly conform, and by which they are preeminently governed. Ray I. Servers on this ray, if they are trained disciples, work through what might be called the imposition of the will of God upon the minds of men. This they do through the powerful impact of ideas upon the minds of men, and the emphasis of the governing principles which must be assimilated by humanity. These ideas, when grasped by the aspirant, bring about two developments. First, they initiate a period of destruction and of a breaking up of that which is old and hindering, and this is later followed by the clear shining forth of the new idea and its subsequent grasping by the minds of intelligent humanity. These ideas embody great principles, and constitute the New Age ideas. These servers, therefore, work as God's destroying angels, destroying the old forms, but nevertheless, behind it all lies the impetus of love. With the average aspirant, however, who is on the first ray, the activity is not so intelligent. He grasps the idea that is needed by the race, but he will seek to impose it primarily as his idea, something which he has seen and grasped and which impatiently he seeks to impose upon his fellow men for their good, as he sees it. He inevitably destroys as fast as he builds, and finally destroys himself. Many worthy aspirants and disciples in training for service at this time work in this sad way. Ray 2. Servers on this ray ponder, meditate upon and assimilate the new ideas associated with the plan, and by the power of their attractive love, they gather together those who are at that point in their evolution where they can respond to the measure and rhythm of that plan. They can select and train those who can carry the idea deeper into the mass of humanity. We should not forget that the work of the hierarchy at this time, and the task of the new group of world servers is primarily associated with ideas. The disciples and servers on the second ray are busy building habitations for those dynamic entities whose function it has ever been to charge the thoughts of men and so to usher in that new and better age which will permit the fostering of the souls of men. By magnetic, attractive, sympathetic understanding, and the use of slow action, based on love, do the servers on this ray work. Ray 3. The servers on this ray have a special function at this time in stimulating the intellect of humanity, sharpening it and inspiring it. They work, manipulating ideas so as to make them more easy of comprehension by the mass of intelligent men and women who are to be found in the world at this time and whose intuition is not yet awakened. Ideas are taken by the third ray aspirant, as they emerge from the elevated consciousness of those for whom the first ray works and are rendered attractive by the second ray worker, attractive in the esoteric sense, and adapted to the immediate need and rendered vocal by the force of the intellectual third ray types. In this lies a hint for many of the third ray personalities to be found working in various fields of service at this time. Ray 4. This ray is not in incarnation at the time and therefore few fourth ray egos are available in world service. There are, however, many fourth ray personalities and they can learn much by the study of the work of the new group of world servers. The major task of the fourth ray aspirant is to harmonize the new ideas with the old, so that there can be no dangerous gap or break. They are those who bring about a righteous compromise, and adapt the new and the old so that the true pattern is preserved. They are engaged with the bridging process, for they are the true intuitives and have a capacity for the art of synthesis so that their work most definitely can help in bringing forward a true presentation of the divine picture. End of page 194. Ray V. The servers on this ray are coming rapidly into prominence. They are those who investigate the form in order to find its hidden idea, its motivating power, and to this end they work with ideas, proving them either true or false. They gather into their ranks those whose personalities are on this ray and train them in the art of scientific investigation. From the sensed spiritual ideas, lying behind the form side of manifestation, from the many discoveries in the ways of God with man and nature, from the inventions, which are but materialized ideas, and from the witness to the plan which law portrays, they are preparing that new world in which men will work and live a more deeply conscious, spiritual life. Disciples working along these lines in every country today are more active than at any other time in human history. They are, knowingly and unknowingly, leading men into the world of meaning, and their discoveries will eventually end the present era of unemployment, and their inventions and improvements, added to the steadily growing idea of group interdependence, will eventually ameliorate human conditions so that an era of peace and leisure can supervene. Ray 6. The effect of the activity of this ray, during the past 2,000 years, has been to train humanity in the art of recognizing ideals, which are the blueprints of ideas. The main work of the disciples on this ray is to capitalize on the developed tendency of humanity to recognize ideas, and, avoiding the rocks of fanaticism, and the dangerous shoals of superficial desire, train the world thinkers so ardently to desire the good, the true and the beautiful, that the idea which should materialize in some form on earth can shift from the plane of the mind and clothe itself in some form on earth. Some people have to be galvanized into activity by an idea. With these the first ray disciple can be effective. Others can be reached more easily by an ideal, and will then subordinate their personal lives and wishes to that ideal. With these the sixth ray disciple works with facility, and this he should endeavor to do, teaching men to recognize the truth, holding steadily before them the ideal, restraining them from a too energetic and fanatical display of interest, in the need for the long pull. The sixth ray, it should be remembered, when it constitutes the personality ray of a man or a group, can be far more destructive than the first ray, for there is not so much wisdom to be found, and, as it works through desire of some kind, it is following the line of least resistance for the masses, and can therefore the more easily produce physical plane effects. Sixth ray people need handling with care, for they are too one-pointed and too full of personal desire, and the tide of evolution has been with this type for a very long time. But the sixth ray method of evoking desire for the materializing of an ideal is indispensable, and, fortunately, there are many aspirants and disciples on this ray available today. Ray 7. This ray provides at this time an active and necessary grouping of disciples who are eager to aid the plan. Their work lies naturally on the physical plane. They can organize the evoked ideal which will embody as much of the idea of God as the period and humanity can evidence and produce in form upon the earth. Their work is potent and necessary and calls for much skill in action. This is the ray that is coming into power. None of these ray participants in the hierarchical crusade today can really work without each other, and no group can carry on alone. The difference between the methods of the old age and that of the new can be seen expressed in the idea of leadership by one and leadership by a group. It is the difference between the imposition of an individual's response to an idea upon his fellow men and the reaction of a group to an idea, producing group idealism and focalizing it into definite form, carrying forward the emergence of the idea without the dominance of any one individual. This is the major task today of the seventh-ray disciple, and to this end he must bend every energy. He must speak those words of power which are a group word, and embody the group aspiration in an organized movement, which, it will be noted, is quite distinct from an organization. End of page 195. End of chapter 38.